becoming perspicacious, how to do that, what that means for you and your success, and moving forward, how we should keep this in the back of my mind moving forward. So, I'm making this video without my mic. If you guys watched my last video, you'll know I lost my charger. I have no idea where it went. And just the other day, I lost my watch as well. And I was literally going insane because I know exactly when I had it. I know exactly the situation that I was in afterwards, and it disappeared. But anyways, that's besides the point of this video. The point I want to make in this video is being perspicacious. Now, what does perspicacity even mean? So, if you guys listen to Andrew Tate at all, you'll know this quote. And before you snicker, I know a lot of people don't like Andrew Tate, and I'm going to give you a couple things to say about that. Number one, I like what he says, the stuff that he means. Now, when I say what he means, this is what I want to do. Andrew Tate's an amazing marketer, right? He says some outlandish things because that's what gets attention, that's what sells. One of the things he said is like, yeah, if you're a cat person, you're stupid. That's obviously, right? It's obviously Andrew Tate being Andrew Tate. But I know a friend of mine who doesn't like him because of that. Like, you got to think logically, not with emotion. But one quote, one famous quote that he has said is, "My unmatched perspicacity and sheer indefatigability makes me a feared opponent in any realm of human endeavor." Now, what does that mean? I didn't even know what that means until I actually searched it up. And another thing, Emery Tate, right, Andrew Tate's dad said, he said, I forget what the context was, but basically, he said that Andrew Richardson, I don't know who it was, but you shouldn't even consider learning another language because you don't even know English well enough. That's a very advanced English thing to say. I guarantee, most of you watching this probably don't know what that means, right? And I read a lot of books. I didn't even know what that meant. But I want to go on the first part of this, which is perspicacity. Indefatigability is something else. But what does perspicacity mean? Perspicacity means having insight and having the ability to foresee events, patterns, just to have intuition, very good intuition on what you see, what's going to happen, all like that. And so what does that mean for you, right? If you're watching this, chances are you're some sort of entrepreneur, right? Or you're one of my friends who are watching this video. But for you to be perspicacious moving forward, being able to distinguish things, being able to see patterns, to double down on those patterns, to act accordingly to those patterns will bring you a ton of success. One example of this, one extremely relevant example of this is sales, right? There's people practice objection handling. It's one of the most practiced thing in sales that you do. Some of the most common objections you're going to get are, I need to think about it. I need to talk to my wife. What's another one? I need to think about it. I need to talk to my wife. Yeah, those are the two main ones. There's a whole bunch of other ones that kind of fall under that. But yeah, so one thing to be perspicacious in just those senses is to know what to say when that happens, right? To recognize those patterns. And that takes preparation, right? But perspicacity itself, right, I believe is like in the moment. I'm actually going to search this up for you guys. Let's see what Gemini has to say. What does perspicacity? So perspicacity is the quality of having a ready insight into things. So shrewdness, right? Having a good intuition. So for you yourself to have a good intuition into anything, especially when it comes to areas of success, human psychology is going to be a huge one, right? To know what people are thinking, to, if something bad's going to happen, you nip it in the bud right away so that it doesn't boil over. It's going to be huge for you, right? Like having that by your side could mean the make or the break in whatever situation that you're being faced in. Now, how do we actually get perspicacious, right? How do we actually gain this perspicacity? And I'm going to tell you this, and this comes down to, stuff I've read a lot, classic literature. One of my mentors, Ty Lopez, very, very, very wise guy. He's dedicated almost most of his life to just learning, right? Learning from the great thinkers, being mentored by, good people. And so one thing there, you have to put yourselves in position where you can gain that knowledge and that insight, right? You don't just get perspicacious overnight. I know one of my friends, he's telling me, he said that he wants to learn the thing itself. Like, he's wanting to do trading right now. And that's completely fine, right? Learning to do a thing yourself. You're going to gain a lot of experience and knowledge like that. There's only two ways that you can learn to do something. You either learn it or you earn it, right? You earn it through experience or you learn it through someone else. Humans are one of the only species on Earth that are capable to simulate other people's, like other creatures' paths taken, right? A frog, if a frog, I don't know, eats a berry and dies, another frog isn't able to say, okay, if this frog ate this berry and died, I'm not going to eat this. But humans can do that. So one example of this, Sam Walton, Made in America, book my mentor references quite often. His very first contract that he got into for like a lease for his one of his first Walmarts, he didn't read it well enough and he ended up getting screwed over by the contract terms. Now, we can take that, right? And as I said, gaining knowledge, we can be on our path of knowledge. We can read these good books, all of this. We can learn this and we can take that lesson from that. So if we're ever in a situation where we're leasing out a building and on the contract, we know, hey, Sam Walton got screwed over because he didn't read the last one good enough. I'm going to make sure that I double down and read this. We can save ourselves a whole bunch of hassle, a whole bunch of unnecessary resource and time wasted just because we were able to simulate that, right? We were perspicacious in the sense where that knowledge, that idea backed up our sense of shrewdness. So that's one way to do it, obviously. And another one is just putting yourself in situations like that, right? Like I said, earned or learned. That's the two ways that you gain insight into something. That's the two ways that you learn something, right? One good example of this, look at talking with people. Some people are charismatic, some people aren't. You could be you could be a learned charismatic person, or you could just be a natural one. But it's the same qualities and senses that apply, right? Like a big one, How to Win Friends, Influence People, on my stack of books right there, I believe. I keep it at the top because I like to reference it quite often. But if you guys haven't read that book, by the way, you need to read that book immediately, especially if you're an entrepreneur. But, like one thing there, just getting people to talk about themselves, right? A person's going to be more interested in themselves, right? Like what they have to say than to listen to you. Knowing that when you go into, a situation and you're talking with someone, just go from that perspective. Another thing too, with that in mind, right? If you, what was I going to say? Oh yeah. So another thing, right? Doing uncomfortable things. If you're not a naturally shy person, but if you don't want to just do small talk with people, that's how I am now. That was a little bit of me growing up and the conditions that made that happen. But, I don't sit in an elevator and I don't want to go, hey, I want to talk to this person. I'd rather be left alone. But I talk to them anyways. And it's a little bit because I don't want to, because I'm nervous. And it's a little bit I don't want to just because I don't want to. Now, that could come across in a negative way, but it's not. At least from what I'm saying. But every single time I have the chance to talk to someone, I talk to someone. Like the other day, I was at a sports competition. I made the team for my province, right? It's going to be international competition up north, way up north, like in the Yukon territory. And, afterwards, because I was the only male that made the team. There was supposed to be 5 of us going, but I was the only one who hit the requirements, like the warm-up heights for all of my certain, kicks I had to do. And so they're going to take the spots from the males over to the females. Now, something that is, you see over and over again, and like even for teenagers like myself, right? Like realistically, I probably shouldn't have the insight. I probably shouldn't have the knowledge not that I shouldn't have it, but compared to most people my age, I have a lot more insight than other people. Now, if I didn't live by the philosophies I live by, if I didn't know what I knew about people, about making first impressions, about all of this, there was like a group of 8 girls. Now, I'm not nervous around girls or anything, but it's way easier to talk with, a fellow male than it is to talk with a girl, right? especially when there's a group of 8 of them and there's only one of you. And so I could have easily, and I wanted to, like, truthfully, I had to make myself do this. But I wanted to just go there, hear, yeah, Liam, you made the team, go back and just leave, right? But again, I knew the power of first impressions. I knew that I saw in the future, right? I had the insight and the preparedness to look into things. If I was going to be on a team with these people, right, for a straight week, I'm just going to have to go up there. I'm just going to have to, maybe there's a little bit of awkwardness as I walk up to the whole group and, just like, hey, excuse me. Realistically, it's not awkward, right? One quote, forget where I read it, but, and this is awesome. This is one of my favorite quotes of all time. It's, the person who tries is going to be infinitely more respected than the person who doesn't try, right? If you're someone in the background, nobody is going to notice you. But if you put yourself out there in a positive way, right, not with negative intentions, you're going to have more respect than the person who never did. And just think about that for a second. Even if you walk up to someone and let's say you stutter your first words, let's say you say some stupid things that come out wrong and you're just sitting there so embarrassed. Now, there's 2 ways you could go about that. Obviously, if you stutter and then just like go all red and run away, that's probably going to be more negative than if you didn't say anything. But if you hold that confidence to yourself, right? If you say something that comes across wrong and you just laugh it out and be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. What I meant to say was go that. Just remain confident. You're going to be infinitely respected. And I've seen this time and time again, right? There's a lot of stuff because I'm only 19 years old. I don't have the experience that most people have. And, most people's insight of, I like to think that, I like to visualize that I'm already at the place I want to be. It's just the success has to catch up to me now. And, even me, I've been able to see this in my, my young life. If you try, man, like, especially, in a situation like that, as I mentioned before, it's really intimidating for, a boy to walk up to, let's say, a group of 8 girls, especially if you're teenagers. You're going to be infinitely more respected if you do that. If you just sat in the background, right? And so it's going back to perspicacity. How did I get here? Again, I like to go on tangents. If you're not new, if you watch my videos, you know I go on a ton of tangents. But going back to that, I knew from my artillery of knowledge, right, from what I've already gained, I knew how important first impressions were. I just read a book. It's like, not everyone understands you and what to do about it. Basically, right, our brains are trying to bridge the gap and expend as little energy as possible. So one good example is the stereotypes. If we see something time and time and time again, our brains are automatically going to associate it with that. It's not that we're discriminatory. It's not that we're, whatever ist we are to this group. But when we see it time and time again, and when we hear it, right, the media does, a really not bad job, but a prevalent job of doing that. That's what's going to happen. And so what was the point I was getting at here? Yeah, so this is one thing for first impressions. If you're a stranger, right, and you go up to someone, however you come across, it's going to be the first thing that they base their foundation on. Your brain has to expend that energy when they're first seeing someone. But as soon as there's, the way it works is there's, your number one and then your number two that comes in. Your number one is your subconscious and your number two is your conscious if you decide to override it. So as soon as you come up to someone, they're subconsciously already making a profile of you. And then number two, that's when it's like the judge, right? As Freud said, it's like the id, the ego, and the superego. That comes in and like regulates, okay, what are the circumstances behind this, the situations, being able to see yourself in the other person's shoes, and then regulate what it is you see. But most people don't do that, and it's not that people don't choose to. You have to train yourself to do that. You have to become conscious of that yourself. Even me, I don't do that, and I don't do that every single time, and I'm conscious of it, right? It's just repetition. You got to keep doing that. But that's why I know first impression is so important, and as an example of that, that's why, I had to walk up to all of them. They're all in their group, but I just like, excuse me, just kind of awkwardly get everyone to switch over and just talk to the whole group and be like, hey, just want to introduce myself. We're going to be going on the team together. Blah, blah, blah. I'm Liam. What's your name? All this. And so that was just an example of my artillery of knowledge that enabled me to be perspicacious in that moment. Perspicacious, however you say it, doesn't matter. And so for you yourself, in any realm of success, right, you need to have that. That's what enables you to be perspicacious. Like I said, you don't just wake up. You don't just wake up and do it. But that is what's going to enable you to do that, either through what you learn, right, through books, through videos, podcasts, whatever that may be, or you earn it, right, through experience. It could be bad, it could be good, but that's why mentors are so important too, right? Because you gain their experience that they learned just like that, right? You get all those lessons without having to go through them yourself. And so that's everything for this video. Thank you guys for watching. Again, if you are new to my channel, you'll know trying to build something spectacular, trying to build $1 million AI agency at the moment. That may change, may very well change, but just trying to document every single day, concepts, ideas, things on my journey that I've learned that I could share with other people to positively influence and impact them. So if you guys want to see more, follow my journey, subscribe, follow wherever you're watching or listening to this on. Follow my Instagram. You guys can, DM me any questions on there. I answered all my DMs. I do daily updates on there, like more daily on my AI agency, so you guys can check that out. But all in all, thank you guys for watching. If you got this far, hope to see you in the next one. Make sure to subscribe, follow for more, and above all, stay wise.